President Trump fighting back against critics during a fiery Rose Garden news conference where he officially declared a national emergency on the southern border.
We're going to be signing today and registering national emergency. And it's a great thing to do because we have an invasion of drugs, invasion of gangs, invasion of people, and it's unacceptable. I could do the wall over a longer period of time. I didn't need to do this, but I'd rather do it much faster. And I don't have to do it for the election. I've already done a lot of wall for the election, 2020. And the only reason we're up here talking about this is because of the election.
Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi blasting the decision as a, quote, power grab. They're also signaling that Democrats are ready to fight it out in the courts. President Trump sarcastically responding to any potential legal challenges.
We will have a national emergency, and we will then be sued, and they will sue us in the Ninth Circuit, even though it shouldn't be there. And we will possibly get a bad ruling, and then we'll get another bad ruling, and then we'll end up in the Supreme Court, and hopefully we'll get a fair shake, and we'll win in the Supreme Court.
Okay, you've been talking about how this has been a civics lesson. He's right. It's not just how the bill becomes a law; it's then how the bill goes to court.
Yes, yes. And he said it in such kind of a nice sing-songy way that even a child and then this happens. Okay, so the thing that we have to remind everybody when you're listening to smug reporters that when the caravans were here, it was a national emergency. At that time, America was being compared to Nazi Germany because we were separating. Remember, we were separating families and putting children in cages. It was a horrifying humanitarian crisis. So you finally get the president to agree that this is an unacceptable situation and we should apply some solutions. And suddenly the Democrats are mocking it. Oh, it's no longer an emergency, even though we said that it was like Nazi Germany just months ago. So for the media and for the Democrats, the caravan is a national emergency until it's no longer visual. So what you're left with are adults trying to solve the underlying issue that led to this crisis, which is, I mean, think about this, whether it is terror or mass shootings, you don't just assume everything is fine when the attack is over. You go back, you figure out how do you prevent that. That's all that's going on right now. And to laugh at this and say it's not a humanitarian crisis, you were the same people screaming bloody murder.
That it was.
That it was.
We actually have some sound from one of the exchanges with a reporter. You're going to want to talk about this, Pete. Take a listen.
What do you say to your critics who say that you are creating a national emergency, that you're concocting a national emergency here in order to get your wall?
I asked the angel moms, what do you think? Do you think I'm creating something? Ask these incredible women who lost their daughters and their sons. Okay? Because your question is a very political question, because you have an agenda. No, you get one. You get one.
Well, the second
Just
question
sit down.
is...
Wait, sit down. Sit down.
Could you please answer?
Sit down. You get one question.
Pete, you're sitting.
I said the same
Stand
thing
up,
about
Pete.
kids last night. Sit. I will say, you talked about visuals, Greg.
Yeah.
The angel moms were the most powerful part of this press conference. He used them in his opening remarks, and then when Jim Acosta tried to come at him and use the stats to talk about the stats, he said, there you are. The left does the emotional visuals so well, so often. And we rarely see that from conservatives or Republicans because we talk stats.
No, if you do, they get made fun of.
Yeah, they get made fun of. You talk stats, but that visual right there, these are people affected by this. And the comparison is, remember when the left and the media went wall to wall on the very unfortunate circumstance where the two kids who were handed over to ICE in custody as their parents brought them on the perilous journey passed away after everything we do for them? That was wall to wall coverage. There's almost no coverage other than this channel on these angel moms and these circumstances when illegals go wrong. That's the point the president is making. I think a lot of people watching this feel that viscerally.
And did Acosta ask President Obama, Nancy Pelosi, and all the Democrats? Did he stop them and say, you know, is this a manufactured humanitarian crisis when they were all out there calling? There were clips of Obama and Pelosi and all these Democrats calling it and acknowledging that this was a humanitarian crisis. No reporters questioned them on it. They all said, oh, yeah, they want to address it. They want to do something about it. He had no choice but to do this national emergency. This was not my first choice.
He did have a choice.
I mean, he could have taken the original deal, which was terrible. He could have taken this new bill that's an atrocity, as I said yesterday. But the bottom line is, as I said yesterday also, it's either a national emergency or it's not. And he was in a position now where he felt like there's no movement for me here. I'm not getting any help from Democrats. They're not interested at this point in calling this what it is, which is a national emergency, because to do that would give me a victory in 2020 or would give some credence to what I've been saying. So unless I actually declare this and figure out a way to move some of this money around, I'm not going to get the money for the wall. They're not interested in the barriers. And they put so many obstacles forth in this spending bill that, you know, you can't have this type of wall. You can't have a wall of that type in this place, enabling towns and counties.
Can't disrupt the butterflies.
Right, you can't do anything, essentially.
Let me mention one that in my ear, they tell me that just FYI, the House Judiciary Committee has announced that they are launching an immediate investigation into this executive action. They've sent letters to the president to that effect. Let's get your thoughts. You haven't spoken yet.
Well, I think the key thing for me is that the Justice Department told him there's a high litigation risk with this strategy. I don't think there's an emergency of any kind. To say there's a humanitarian crisis, well, I guess there was a humanitarian crisis in December. I guess there was a humanitarian crisis 2 years ago.
So you don't want to fix it?
Let me finish. And so you have a situation where he didn't declare an emergency then. Now, today, and I think this was telling, he says, you know what, I don't need to do this, but I'd rather do it faster. Boy, if I was a lawyer, I'd say, Your Honor, the president said he doesn't need to do this. There's no invasion. There's nobody attacking America. This is not a military
When another child
situation.
dies, you will change your mind.
This is a situation where I think it was Ann Coulter, a real conservative, who said the only national emergency is the president is an idiot. And that was that.
So now you agree with Ann Coulter.
And so this is,
She changes her mind every day.
But to me, you look at the idea of the national emergency, and what I see is that you guys are saying, well, maybe because you want to support the president. I can appreciate that.
No.
But I got to tell you something. The Wall Street Journal editorial page, National Review. I could even go on. The number of Republicans in the Senate, including Mitch McConnell, Senate Majority, who tried to get the president to say, don't do this because there's one day going to be President Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and boy, you don't want to give her this authority.
But you know what? What's great now is I want to hear the Dems tell me that fentanyl is no longer a problem, human trafficking is no longer a problem, gang violence is no longer a problem, sexual abuse is no longer a problem. The Dems are walking into a huge trap. It's already happening. You saw it with Beto.
The wall down.
Yeah, no, all you have to do.
Can we play that?
Yeah, sure.
Watch this.
If you could, would you take the wall down now? Here.
Yes.
Like you have a wall.
Absolutely.
Knock it down.
I'd take the wall down.
And do you think the city, if there's a referendum here in this city, that would pass?
I do. It's cost us tens of billions of dollars to build and to maintain, and it has pushed migrants and asylum seekers and refugees to the most inhospitable, the most hostile stretches of the U.S.-Mexico border, ensuring their suffering and death.
That'll come back.
Well, no, okay,
yeah,
this is, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, that if they believe something is immoral, shouldn't you remove the existing immorality? Yeah. And that is the existing walls. So it's a trap that they've walked into, and now he says yes. And you know who else said yes? Kirsten Gillibrand. Is it Gillibrand or Gillibrand? Whatever. Anyway, the point is, now... Gillibrand, thank you. So the fact is, each one is now going to be faced with this question wherever they go, and they're going to have to, they have two choices. Remove the immorality or side with Trump.
It's not a case of
Kirsten.
It's not a case of whether the national emergency is now or 2 months ago. The president has said it's an emergency for that long. Congress can't figure it out. They can't address it. They haven't been able to deal with the emergency as a result. As the executive who's charged with our security, he says, I have to take it in my own hands.
It's not a security issue.
Drugs.
It's
drug trafficking.
And drugs.
They're lying about the stats on the border.
Let's go
we got to run.
No, let me finish up here.
Well,
you know, when the president says, oh, this is about drugs, most drugs come through legal ports of entry. When the president says it's about illegal immigration, guess what? Illegal immigration is down substantially, like radically, since 2000.
Because of walls.
Oh, my God. No, it's not because
no
of
problems here.
And you talk about walls. There are other ways. There's
you guys,
fencing,
we have to run.
drones.
We got to go.
But, you know, to me, it's like you don't want to hear it.
Okay.